This is Gemara Makkos, Daf Beis, Baruch Hashem, the excitement of a new Masechta. Today's learning has been dedicated by a close friend of Adaf as Lizchos Aliyas Neshama for Miriam Bas Eliezer, whose yahrzeit was on yesterday. Mirza Hashem, the Koyach HaTorah, should elevate the neshama of Miriam Bas Eliezer higher and higher in Gan Eden Shalmaila, as well as looking ahead to the daf for the second day of Yontif. We'd like to dedicate the daf as Lizchos Aliyas Neshama for Eliazer Moshe ben Shema, as well as the Koyach HaTorah should continuously elevate his neshama closer to the Kisei HaKavod. And finally, we like all the learning to be an incredible Zchos Refuah Shalema for Tinoik ben Miriam Ahuva, B'Soich Sha'ar Chayli Yisrael. And as we begin a new Masechta, we once again begin with a tefillah that Amir to Hashem, this excitement and vigor and passion for Chazara that we have when we begin should carry us through Makkos. A short Masechta hopefully will allow the shortness to propel us to Chazer at higher levels. We'll try to get back onto the Zichru bandwagon. I encourage everyone, we've seen such incredible powers to retain the material. 23 days, 23 daf, B'siyata Dishmaya. So, here we go. Makkos Daf Beis begins the Mishnah, Ketzad Ha'edim Nasin Zaymim. In what way do Eidim become Eidim Zaymimim? Now, what are Eidim Zaymimim? What's this entity? We're starting with, how do you become? What is an Eidim Zaymimim? Well, we're going to see in the Gemara, it's when one gives Eidos that someone could not have witnessed a certain scenario because they weren't there. For example, Reuven gave Eidos that Shimon committed a crime, that Shimon stole. And I come into Bez and I say, Reuven, you're giving Eidos that you saw Shimon steal? Reuven, Imanu Ha'isem, you were with me on vacation in Florida. How could you give Eidos? That's Eidim Zaymimim, which we will see. And the classical rule of Eidim Zaymimim is whatever the person tried to give. The case we just said, Reuven was giving Eidos that Shimon stole. So Reuven was trying to obligate Shimon in money. So now when the Eidim are found to be Eidim Zaymimim, they have to pay that same amount of money. Again, all these rules will become very, very clear as we go along. But again, says the Mishnah, Ketzad Eidim Nasim Zaymimim, explains the Mishnah. Me'idim anu b'shplaini sheben grusha ben chalutza. If they came along and they testified about a certain person, what type of person? Rashi fills in the critical detail. A kohen. They testify that he is a ben gerusha or a ben chalutza. Rashi says, what does that mean? That this person's mother was nitgaresh, was divorced in front of us before she gave birth to this child. Now, of course, a kohen is not allowed to marry a gerusha, not allowed to marry a chalutza. And therefore, if this woman was divorced and then married the kohen be'isr, what happens? The child in front of us, the person that we're giving testimony about, is pasul. His status is called a chalal. He's a child born from a union of a kohen with a grusha, which is a forbidden union, and therefore the child is a chalal. So if someone gives eidos that a certain person is a chalal, that a certain person was born from a forbidden union, and then that person that gave eidos is found to be an eid zaymim, that person that gave eidos, who testified, I saw this kohen's mother get divorced, and then what happened? Someone else comes into bed and says, you saw the mother get divorced. Imanu Ha'isem, you were with us on that date. What's the halacha? We do not say the classical rule that whatever you tried to give to someone else, you yourself get. So maybe this person, this person should become a ben grusha ben chalutza, as Rashi spells out, to fulfill the dictum of ka'asher zamam, the dictum of you get what you tried to give. We do not say that. We do not say, rather, what is the punishment loike arbayim, you get Malkis. And Rashi says, the Gemara is going to explain what's going on over here. Continues the Mishnah, case number 2. Someone gives a testimony about a certain person that he has to go to Gullus. Why would he have to go to Gullus? Because he killed a person b'shayik. And then this person who gave that Eidus is found to be an Eid Zaymim. Again, says the Mishnah, we do not say that he should go to Gullus. Ella, rather, like Arbayim, again, he gets Malkus. So 2 cases in our Mishnah in which these people who are found to be Eidim Zaymimim do not get the classical Kasher Zamam, and rather they get Malkus. And of course, thinking minds are already starting to conjure up just from the Mishnah the strangeness. We're beginning a Masechta, we're beginning a concept. We don't even know what an Ein Zaymim is, and we're giving cases in which you do not get the regular Kasher Zamam, rather Malkus. So here we go. Says the Gemara. Let's understand what's going on. Says the Gemara, 1 second. Ha-ketzad ein ha'idim nasin zaymi ba'yilei. Question number 1. What did the Mishnah say? Ketzad ha'idim nasin zaymim. Seemingly giving over. How do you, become an ein zaymim? But what did the Mishnah say? Cases where they're not ein zaymimim. So ha-ketzad, you know what the Mishnah should have said. In what way do you not become ein zaymim? Question number 1. Question number 2, from the fact that we learned in a Mishnah on Daf Hey, we tell him, how can you give testimony? How can you give testimony on that day you were there and you saw the Eidos? Excuse me. You were with us in a certain place, then that is the case of Zaymimim. So the Mishnah already explained what is Zaymimim. So what is our Mishnah Ketzad? So a 2-pronged kasha. Number 1, the Mishnah really should say Ketzad ein nasim Zaymim. And number 2, if you're actually coming to tell us what is Eidin Zaymim, we learned that on Daf Hey. Answers the Gemara, Tana Hasam Koi. The Tana is indeed really parroting, or more than parroting, the Tana is coming off of that Mishnah on Daf Hey as follows. Kol hazaymimim makdimin misa. Excuse me, I said it wrong. Tana Hasam Koi. The Tana is going back on there. I said it wrong. Not in Daf Hey. Our Mishnah is going back what we learned in Sanhedrin. We learned in Sanhedrin and Daf Peites a klal about Zaymimim, that all Eidim Zaymimim makdimim la'isei misa. All Eidim Zaymimim get the same type of misa that they were trying to give someone else. Chutz, except for mizaymimei bas kayin. The one case that does not is the case of Eidos about a bas koyin ubayala, and one that is with her, she'ein, who slept with her, she'ein makdim lo'isei mesa. Then in that case, that's the anomaly that we learned in the Sanhedrin, that you do not get the regular misa you were trying to inflict, ella lemisa acheres. Rather, you get a different misa. That's what we learned over there, Sanhedrin Beites. Based off of that comes our Mishnah and teaches us there's a different type of Eidim Zaymimim that what? They don't get anything. Over there in Sanhedrin, we learned the case strange. You don't get the same Misa, but you get Misa. Then our Mishnah comes and says, by the way, there's an Eidim Zaymim that doesn't even get Misa at all. Ella, rather, what do you get? Malkus Arbayim. Ketzad, what is that case? What is the case that completely breaks all rules? You don't get Misa Bechlal. Ketzad, Midim Anu Bishvloini, Shuben Grusha Ben Chalutza, Ein, Arbim Yasaz Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza Tachtov, Ella, Loika Es Arbayim. Rather, you get Makkos. So says the Gemara, beautiful pshat, what's going on in our Mishnah? What's pshat? Kates Edim Nasim Zaymim. It should be, they're not be Zaymim. And secondly, we learn in Daf, hey, what's Edim Zaymim? Says the Gemara, no. We just finished Sanhedrin. We just finished learning a klal and Daf Beites that there are cases that you do not get the same misa that you were trying to inflict. Based off of that rule, now comes our Mishnah. Guess what? There are even cases that not only do you not get the same Misa, you don't even get Misa at all. Rather, you get Malchus. And that is our Mishnah. Says the Gemara, Minahani Mili. But where do we know this din from? From where do we know that in a case of our Mishnah that you gave Eidos that someone's a Ben Gushim and Chalutza, that you do not become a Ben Gushim and Chalutza, rather you get Malchus. Where do we know that from? Amar Rav Yeshua ben Levi teaches Rav Yeshua ben Levi to Amar Cross says the Torah. And here we see the basic rule, Vasisem loy kasher zamam. You get what you were trying to give. You give to him what he was zamam, what he was planning to do to someone else. Loy, only he gets it. We don't mess up his kids. And if we were to make someone a Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza, the halacha is a chalul is possible, and his kids are also possible. So if we were going to do to this aid what he tried to do to someone else, it would not stop by him, and rather it would go to his kids. So we cannot give it to him, because then it's going to mess up his kids. Says the Gemara, 1 second. So why don't we just break the rule? So why don't we just say, okay, the problem is the kid's fine, so he'll become basel, and the kids will not become basel. Says the Gemara, you know why we can't do that? Because we need to give the same thing that he was trying to inflict on someone else. What was he trying to inflict? That this person that he gave it is the Ben Gushem and Chalutza, that he becomes basel, and his kids become basel. And therefore, if we want to give him the same punishment, it has to be the same thing, and it can't stop and not include his kids. Teretz number 1, where we see the din in our Mishnah, that when you want to give Edis to someone else, Ben Gushem and Chalutza, and you become Eitzayimim, you don't get the same punishment. Bar Pada Imer, says the Gemara, a second source to our Mishnah. Kal v'chaymer. It's a kal v'chaymer. Uma ha'mechalel inay mischalel. Hakoyin does not make the child pasul. Hama mechalel inay mischalel. Excuse me. Let me say that again. Ma mechalel. I said it wrong. Omar mechalel, the kohen that does create that his children will be pasul, like we just said, but yet einoi mitchalel, he himself does not become pasul. The kohen that's together with the gerusha, he himself does not become pasul. So habol chalel. So now this aid that's coming to make someone else pasul, v'loy chilel, and he didn't actually do it because he's found to be zaymim. Einoy din shaloi yischalel. So certainly says the Gemara, Einoy din shaloi yischalel, he himself should not become a chalul, and that's why, says the Mishnah, he begets Malchus. So again, what was the kasha? The Mishnah said you give Eidos and sons of Ben Gushem and Chalutza. We do not say you get the rather you get Malchus. Why not? Teretz number 1, because we need kasha zamam loy, and not to his kids. Why don't we just mess up him and not his kids? Because then it's not kasha zamam, because he tried to inflict to someone and all future generations, and not him. Says the Gemara, okay, Gavaldik. But our brother says the second reason. You know why? Because the kohen himself doesn't become tamei, and you're going to say that this aid who's giving eidos about him, should he have become tamei? Maskiv la Ravina. So Ravina comes along and asks on Parapada's question. Im came batalta tairas idim zaymim. If your logic is true, based off of this kal v'chaymer, all eidim zaymimim go out the window. And therefore, through this kasha, Ravina proves that Barpada ideology, Parpada's reason cannot be correct. Explains the Gemara as we turn over to Beizim and Beiz. Why? Anytime an aid is trying to inflict skila on someone else and he doesn't actually do it. Why not? Because there's only kasher zamam, a rule that we're going to see only if it's before the punishment's actually inflicted. If Reuven gives aid about Shimon, that Shimon is chayiv skila, and they go and they kill Shimon, and then Reuven's found to be Eidim Zaymim, the halacha is Reuven does not get kasher zamam. It's only if it's before the punishment was inflicted. Suma Saikel, you're trying to give over skila. Einoi niskal. It doesn't work. Habaliskal, so the same kasha you just said. Someone who's trying to give over skila v'lo yisakal. Einoi din. Is it not true? Shalai yisakal. And if that was to be the case, there'd be no more Eidim Zaymim, because the whole premise of Eidim Zaymim is that you get what you're trying to give. That if someone is trying to get someone else gets skila, and he's found to be Eidim Zaymim, he'd get skila. But based on the logic that we just said, it wouldn't work. As says the Gemara, you're right. Al Machavarta, the first teretz, Kishaninan, Mei Kara, the first teretz must be the real one. And we continue, we're on the third line, Beizim and Beiz, Minaman and Beishplani, Shuchayev Golos, Sarz B'Misha, you don't give Golos, rather you give Malkus. Menani immediately, what's the Makarim? Rish Lakish Damar Cross says the Torah, Huyanos El Achas Orim. He runs to one of these cities of refuge. And from here we're Medayik, who he runs, V'loi Zaymim. And not Zaymim, Teretz number one of Rish Lakish. Rav Yochanan Amar, a second Teretz, Kal V'Chaimer, says Rav Yochanan, again, easy to remember these two terutzim of today's daf, as each one has a Makar, and the second Teretz is a Kal V'Chaimer. Rav Yochanan Amar Kal V'Chaimer. What's the halacha? If someone does a ma'isa b'mezid, someone kills b'mezid, the halacha is there's no galus. Hein, the edim shelo yasu ma'isa b'mezid, the edim who did not do something b'mezid, rather what do? The edim just testified falsely. Einoi din shelo yiglu. Is it not logical that they should not go to Galos? Says the Gemara, 1 second. Hinaisanes. Your logic is flawed. Why? Why? What's the reason if someone kills b'mezid, he doesn't go to Galos? It's not a kula. Rather, he doesn't go to Galos because Hashem doesn't want him to go to Galos. Galos is tshuva. Galos is kapara. So we don't want someone who did a b'mezid to go to Galos. Hey, but the edim shlosu ma'isa b'mezid, the opposite. Nami liglu. They should, yes, be allowed to go to Galos. Why? So says the Gemara, Rav Yochanan, your teretz is not a good teretz. Al Machavarta, Kidarish Lakish concludes the Gemara with the first teretz, the teretz of Reish Lakish. Asks the Gemara, Amar Ula, Remez leidim zaymim min ha'Torah minayim. Says Ula, 1 second. We've been talking about all day this new concept of Eidim Zaymim. So says Ula, what's the remez? Ask the Gemara, whoa, slow down. Remez Eidim Zaymim v'oksima sisla kasha zamam. Says the Gemara, oh, you're right. No, that wasn't Ula's kasha. You know what Ula's kasha was? Ela remez Eidim Zaymim sheloikin min ha'Torah minayin. The premise to the din of our Mishnah, that if you can't get kasher zamam, you get Makkos. What is the source of that? Says Ula Dechsiv, the pasuk teaches v'tzdiku es tzaddik v'ershiu es rasha. We make the tzaddik righteous and we make the rasha incriminated. Vayim ben hakos rasha. The pasukim continue will be that if the rasha is hit. Says the Gemara, Mishavitziku is a tzaddik v'shiyas arasha, vayim ben hakos arasha. What do these psukim mean? That because we got the psak right, therefore the rasha is getting malchus. Elof, 3 lines to the bottom, explains the Gemara. Eidim Shershiu as a tzaddik, if they messed up, they said that tzaddik is a rasha. Vasu Eidim Achrini, a different Eidim came along, V'tzdiku as a tzaddik. And he said, no, you Eidim are incorrect. This is the tzaddik that is the rasha. In that case, the Meikara, excuse me, V'tzdiku as a tzaddik Meikara, they said which is the right halacha. V'shavinu lahanu rishayim, and he made the other ones. Which other ones? They made the original Eidim Rishayim. They found them to be Eidim Zaymim. V'hayim and Hakkos Arasha. Then the halacha is they get Malkus. Ask the Gemara, wait, why don't we learn it out from Loisane, the Issa Daraisa, not to be a false witness? So you're over on an Issa Daraisa, so you get Malkus. Answers the Gemara, you're right, it's an Issa Daraisa on the first white line. We should not be lav she'in by Maisa. It's a lav without an action, and the halacha is cholav she'in by Maisa, in like in a lav, there would be no Malkus. That's the reason why we need to have this new makar v'hayim ben Hakkos Arasha teaching us that there is Malkus for the Eidim Zaymimim. Continues the Gemara, Tanu Rabbanan on the second white line. Dalin Dvarim Namru Eidim Zaymim, four things. Number one, Inasim and Grusha and Chalutza. Number two, in Galim Hari Miklat. Number three, Vim Mishalman Asai Kaifer. Number four, Vim Nimkarim Be'evid Ivri. And Mishum Rabbi Kiva Omer, even number five, Af in Mishalmin Alpi Atzmai. 4 or 5 halachas with regarding Eidim Zaymim. And now classic sense says the Gemara, let's go piece by piece, figuring out what are these halachas. So on the fifth white line says the Gemara, Einasim ben Grusha ben Chalutza Kedamarn. Well, that one's easy. That's our Mishnah. Number two, V'ingadol Ari Miklat Kedamarn. That's as well easy. That's our Mishnah. Number three, Vein Mishalmin. They don't have to pay. As a koifer. That if Eidim were giving testimony about someone else who would be Chayiv Misa, or be Chayiv Koifer, I should say, then the Eidim would have to be Koifer. Why not? Because of our Kufr Kapara, a big machlekes, what is Koifer, as we're going to see in a moment, says the Gemara, it's the old Kufra Kapara. V'hani lavini Kapara, and they don't get a Kapara because they testified falsely. So man, Tana Kufra Kapara. Ask the Gemara, who is this Tana? You know the Tana that holds cover kapara, Rabbi Shmuel ben Osha Baruch ben Broike. The Tana we learned in the Brisa. V'nosan pidyin nafshay temei anizik. Rabbi Shmuel ben Osha Baruch ben Broike. No, what's the pidyin nafshay? What do you have to give if you kill someone else? Temei mazik. So what's this halacha? What do you play temei nizik, temei mazik? A machlekes that we've had says the Gemara Ma'alav is a machlekes not about kamifli the Maris of a kufar memayna. And that's going to be whether it's bidinizik or bidimazik. Amar Rav Papa says, Rav Papa, no. Look, the kuli alma kufar kapar. Everyone knows that the kafir that you pay for killing someone is an atonement. What's the machlekes? How you evaluate it? Marsa bidinizik shai minan savar bidimazik shai minan. Ask the Gemara, my taimayo derabanan. What is the reasoning of the Rabbanan the Tanakama? Explains the Gemara, Nemar hashta lamata, Nemar hashta lamala joshais, that we had ma lahalam b'dinizik, avkam b'dinizik v'shmal v'nasa b'dinavshek siv Rabbanan in b'dinavshek siv miu kishamina b'dinizik shaminan. He's not arguing. Avad yotza b'dinavshay. But how do you evaluate that b'dinavshay? That's b'dinizik. V'einim karim bevid ivri. Halacha number 3 of the Brisa. So Rabbi Nulamir, Hanimi lechatis lei lididei. Timigu di'iu loi nizdavim ineho nami loi mizdavdinan. Says the Gemara, you know why? The reason is that just like, excuse me, demigu di'iu loi mizdavin, since he will not be sold to slavery. Why? Because you're only sold if you don't have cash. Therefore, inunami loy mizdavin. Aval heicha, but explains the Gemara the last leila day. But if he would not have cash, then yes, mizdavin, then he would be sold. Ask the Gemara, v'leim rulei ant havalacham. V'leim rulei iant havalacham biyavizdavninon. If you would have had the money, then what? Would you have been sold? We have the cash. So why are we dependent upon you? We should be dependent upon us, whether we have the cash. Ella rather concludes the Gemara, Who doesn't have the cash? Oh, then and only them is Davna. Amalei Rava. A second reason why you never be sold is because you're only sold for Geneva, not for Zmama, not for being an Edim Zaymim. Pick it up from here. B'siyata Dishmaya.